was gathering my thoughts on nuclear weapons, I strained to get my head around the issue of nuclear deterrence. How do we know our possession of nuclear weapons has deterred and stopped a nuclear war? How do you prove that X happened because of Y? And then I remembered the old story about a man travelling to Oxford on the train. Having just finished his newspaper, he scrunched it up, page by page, and threw each of the pages out of the open window in the carriage. He did this with each page until the newspaper was all gone. Eventually, one passenger asked him what on earth he was doing, to which he replied, "I'm keeping the elephants away." "But there aren't any elephants in Oxford," they replied. "Exactly," he said triumphantly. "That means it's working." In my mind, deterrence is not a fact. It is an act of faith. Some have the faith and think they are keeping the elephants away, and others not. It may be, for example, that our enemies could see no geopolitical or military advantage of using their weapons. Perhaps the row at the time was just not worth it, or perhaps our enemies are now even our mates. Other than the argument of deterrence, I have no doubt you will also hear from the opposition tonight how Britain must assert itself on the world stage, must not seem weak to other world powers, and must ensure security and safety in these turbulent and uncertain times. I do not think that these are valid reasons to argue that nuclear weapons have a place in 21st century Britain. But before I tell you why, it is my pleasure to introduce the opposition to you tonight. First up is Eva Sullivan, first-year Economics and Management student at Pembroke College and a member of Secretary's Committee. Now, Eva has an arguably unhealthy fondness of Justin Bieber, having queued for his concert tickets overnight for 14 hours. So, Eva, I hope it's not too late now for me to say sorry and that you don't love yourself too much after the end of your speech tonight. Next is Philip Dunn, Conservative MP for Ludlow. Philip has served as Minister of State for Defence Procurement at the Ministry of Defence since May 2015 and has previously had the role for Minister for Defence Equipment Support and Technology. And before he takes Emily Thornberry to task about having submarines without nuclear weapons, he might ponder on the fact that his government thought it sensible to have aircraft carriers without the aircraft. Finally, we have John Woodcock, Labour MP for Barrow and Furness. John has said that he will quit as an MP if the Labour Party don't support full Trident renewal.
That's not quite what... would you mind... Would you take a point of information?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I think you've got that slightly confused, and I wouldn't want to get... I wouldn't want people to get the impression that if this open-minded review from our Shadow Defence Secretary and Leader, which is apparently going to look at all of the evidence and come impartially to a position, if it does happen to say that we should have some crazy idea like nuclear submarines without weapons, that I will actually be causing a by-election. I just wanted to put that on the record. Okay, thank you.
This rumoured view is no doubt amplified by the fact he is sitting on a slim majority of less than 2% in a constituency which wants to build the submarines which would deliver the missiles. These are your opposition speakers, Mr. President, and they are most welcome. August 6, 1945, witnessed one of the most horrific events in history. At 8:15 a.m., Little Boy, the ironic name for America's nuclear bomb, was dropped on a city in Japan called Hiroshima. It killed 90 to 166,000 civilian lives, either directly or as a result of injury and radiation. This was the first ever use of the atomic bomb, and it was not the last. Just 3 days later, at 11:01 a.m., Fat Man was dropped on another Japanese city called Nagasaki. Less than a second after its detonation, the whole north of the city was destroyed, and 39 to 80,000 innocent lives were taken, some Allied prisoners of war. It is very simple. Nuclear weapons are weapons of mass destruction. No more, no less. These are not surgical strikes on military targets, but weapons aimed at killing non-combatants in large numbers. And of course, when you use them, they have proved they are no deterrent. The act of use means deterrence has failed. The reality is that while these weapons may destroy the enemy, they also destroy thousands of civilian lives and possibly even the destruction of life on Earth as we know it. There was an uproar late last year when Jeremy Corbyn said he would not authorise the use of nuclear weapons. But perhaps he understands the position he would be in if he makes Prime Minister. The proposition is clear. If you attack us, we will blow up the world in an act of revenge. Perhaps it's easier to see nuclear weapons as suicide belts, and Britain is currently wearing one. It is our choice whether we remove it or leave it strapped to us. Looking at it that way, Corbyn's answer may well be the clearest thinking. Being strapped to a nuclear suicide belt does not give me any great sense of security. The world has come very close at times to nuclear destruction, either by design, the Cuban Missile Crisis, or because of technical or human errors. Nuclear use is a hair-triggered decision, and we have to be lucky against accidents and errors all of the time. In the wise words of Elvis Costello, it only takes one itchy trigger. Perhaps that itchy trigger finger will be on the end of Donald Trump's hand. Does that make you feel safe and secure? And he's meant to be on our side. And then there's the cost. As a country, we're skint, we're told. Every public service, even the life-saving ones, are under a huge financial squeeze. There have been enormous cuts to the military, only very, very partially reversed recently. In terms of the real threats facing us, it is the conventional and not nuclear options we need building up. The enormous cost of Trident, estimated at £2 to £2.4 billion a year, will strip public finances and take away from spending on the conventional military to tackle the new and emerging threats facing us. A Trident missile will not deter ISIL or what comes after it. We can picture the use of jeeps, tanks, helicopters, and the like as things which might be useful and needed to face the new emerging threats. What nuclear weapons in this context represent is the kitchen gadget you've spent your money on and leave it at the back of the cupboard because you can't use it. And what we might need, the tin opener, the corkscrew, we can't afford because we've blown the budget on the big ticket item that we can't use apart from to show off to our visitors. The boys might want their nuclear toys, but the grown-ups might have to tell them we can't afford what they want, tantrum or no tantrum. And I'll end with a quote from Oppenheimer, one of the fathers of the atomic bomb. He quoted from the Hindu scripture when he saw what his bomb could do. "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. Ladies and gentlemen, let us not destroy ours." Thank you.